Here go the top 30 receivers in fantasy football. At number 30, I got George Pickens. I think he's due for a massive year this season. He can really break out as somebody who was coming off an ACL last year. Should be running a complete route tree. At number 29, I got DJ Moore. I think this is a spot where you can get DJ Moore and he can outplay it, but I see more like an 804 type ceiling for DJ Moore. Chicago offense doesn't pass for very much volume. At number 28, I got Mike Will. And Mike Will's been a consistent top 30 receiver, so I think he could outplay this draft spot, especially if Herbert does take a massive leap as a passer. At number 27, I got Michael Pittman. Everybody's concerned about Anthony Richardson in the passing game, but even if he throws for 2,500 yards, somebody's got to catch the football, and Michael Pittman's a good enough receiver to have an impact. At number 26, I got Drake London. There's a lot of people that are excited about the second half finish for Drake London and his target share with Desmond Ridder. But this team does have options when you talk about Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson. Might be a little slower year than people expect for Drake London. At number 25, I got Chris Olave. This is probably the most controversial spot that I have any receiver. But after coming off a 1,000-yard season, only 4 touchdowns, 72 catches, and now you bring in Michael Thomas, I'm not sure Olave has the ceiling everybody's expecting. At number 24, I got Christian Watson. We saw the breakout last year, but this is Jordan Love at quarterback, not Aaron Rodgers. Carries touchdown upside, big play upside, but I see him being more an inconsistent wide receiver 3 than wide receiver 2. At 23, I got Calvin Ridley. I know the excitement is there, and everybody has him as a top 15 receiver right now. But Calvin Ridley does have a limited ceiling this season, unless Trevor Lawrence decides he's going to throw for 5,000 yards this year. At number 22, I got Mike Evans. Mike Evans has consistently been a top 17 fantasy receiver. I'm booking him for 1,000 yards and an increase in his 6 touchdowns from last season. At number 21, I got Brandon Ayuk. This guy was a top 16 receiver last season, and it's the same role. You're getting crazy value on Brandon Ayuk right now, who's going outside of the top 25 receivers. At number 20, I got Terry McLaurin. I understand he's banged up coming into the season, but this is still his offense. I think he has a very high floor, not as much of a ceiling as you'd like to see. At number 19, I got Chris Godwin. Another year removed from the ACL injury. Even though Baker's his quarterback, this team is still going to be leaning on Chris Godwin and his production. Draft with confidence. At number 18, I got DeAndre Hopkins. This is a wide receiver 1 in a wide receiver 2's draft spot. We're fading him because he's in Tennessee, but he's still elite. At number 17, I got Keenan Allen. I'd like to put this a little bit higher, but the injury concerns do worry me a little bit. For those who aren't worried about the injuries, I'd actually bump him up a little bit higher. At number 16, I got Amari Cooper. I do think he's going to finish better than this wide receiver 16 ADP that I have him at, but 2 games in Cleveland in the fantasy playoffs? At number 15, I got Deebo Samuel. I think we faded Deebo a little too much, especially if George Kittle is banged up to start the season. Just because he's not the top 3 player that he was in 21 doesn't mean he needs to be outside of the top 15 receivers. At number 14, I got DK Metcalf. I love DK Metcalf as a player, but I think he's going to be a little inconsistent with all the receivers that Seattle has. At number 13, I got Devontae Smith. He finished as a wide receiver 9 last year, so getting him at wide receiver 13 feels like I'm drafting him at his floor. At number 12, I got T. Higgins. He's in a contract year, and I love drafting players in contract years, but it looks like he has something to prove. I think this year's a major leap for T. Higgins, especially in the red zone. At number 11, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think this is a very safe floor player, but I'm kind of concerned about his upside in this offense. It should be a major focus on offense, but I think there's other players with higher upside. 10, I got Jalen Waddle. I love the floor for Jalen Waddle, and he carries weekly upside as well in this offense, especially if Tua can stay upright this entire season. At number 9, I got Garrett Wilson. This connection with Aaron Rodgers is real. I expect a major uptick in touchdowns, not necessarily the yards, but here at wide receiver 9 feels like good value. Number 8, I got A.J. Brown. The only concern to me is that sometimes he gets banged up, but if he plays a full season, we already know what A.J. Brown is. At number 7, I got CeeDee Lamb, and this is definitely one of those guys that can finish top 5 at the position. My only slight concern is that Dallas is planning to scale it back a little bit when it comes to passing the football. Number 6, I got Devontae Adams. I don't really have any concerns about Jimmy Garoppolo being the quarterback because I trust that Josh McDaniel will put Devontae Adams in the right places to be fantasy relevant. He's elite anyway. At number 5, I got Cooper Kupp. Now, I know he's injured coming into the season, but this is a pick for my risky crowd. The upside's tremendous, but coming into the season, we're dealing with the guy who started with a hamstring injury. Number 1 player in fantasy points per game. I think this is still a good spot for him. At number 4, I got Stephon Diggs, who's been a lock for a top 5 receiver and should have a strong season yet again in Buffalo. He's been clamoring to get the ball more, and I think we see it this season with Josh Allen being fully healthy. At number 3, I got Jamar Chase. This Bengals offense is going to get cracking. It's one of the best quarterbacks in the game, and he has the wide receiver 1 ceiling. At number 2, I got Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill says he wants 2,000 yards. He's either going to break it or get pretty damn close. I think he has to be one of the top 3 players off the board in PPR leagues. And at number 1, I got Justin Jefferson, the safest 1,600 yards in all of football. And if you hear it from him, he's in for a big year in this offense. Adam Thielen left vacated targets for KJ Osborne and Jordan Addison, or maybe it was for Jettas. Let me know what y'all think about the list.